Aniki, Anike.
It's Anik.
You guys can yell at me if you want to. If you want Anike.
I'll do that after the call.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the As Yet Unnamed podcast. I'm Saku, and today with me I have my co-host John. Hello, John.
Hello.
And we have a special guest today. Hello, Erin.
Hello.
Right, so today we're going to do something different. We're not going to do a deck review, and hopefully something like that's going to be more common moving forward, and not just deck reviews. So, John, what are we doing today?
So today we will be looking at the whole list of Justicars we have in the game. We got a new bunch in the 30th anniversary box. So we'll be ranking them up against the older bunch and see how they stand.
Awesome. I have some views.
You have some views?
I have some views. Let's see what happens when we get into the ranking problem. Alright, so how do we want to do this?
Alphabetically.
Alphabetically? That's so expected and normal.
Reverse alphabetically.
Reverse alphabetically. Interesting. Alright, let's just do this alphabetically.
Hang on.
Yep.
Do you want to go over the tiers and roughly what they represent?
Sure. Erin, what do the tiers represent for you?
Well, S tier is probably going to have some kind of special text that will actually apply throughout majority of games that you play, and things that I've come across in actual play that have taken tables.
Yeah, like you said, vamps that pretty much serve as a cornerstone of a deck. They can be the star or someone you reliably want it to come out. A, along the same lines, but not quite at the same level of S tier. So these are pretty good vamps. B, I would call them B for barely playable.
Doesn't that make F? Wouldn't that make F fairly playable?
I need a W for wishful thinking.
Yeah, if I see any of the B tier vamps on a table, I probably won't make much noise, unlike C and F tiers where I'd probably say, why are you playing that crap?
F tier is amazing superstars. I don't know what you're talking about. Let me know in the comments at the end of the video what you think my actual guidelines are, because I don't know what they are. Maybe you can figure it out for me. Anywho, Alonso Petrodon. I think Alonso is easily, for me, somewhere between A or S. Having Dominate, which I hear is good. Has Obfuscate, which I hear works well with Dominate. And he also comes with +1 bleed. But I think he solves a fair bit of Nosferatu's problems, which is they don't have a bounce discipline, and he has it.
And his card text is more relevant than ever.
Ah, right. He does have card text. Sorry, I'm just so used to playing him for years as if he's like Umbrella Nosferatu Justica, blank, +1 bleed.
With his card text now, I firmly put him in S tier. No question for me.
I don't know about S, but definitely A for me. Now that, the Anarchs are more plentiful, probably towards the end of last year, probably would have been good to see some play, but...
Well, you're outvoted, as it is. Democracy!
Who's next?
Anastasy Zagreb, right? That's how you pronounce it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has something about losing votes if there's other Justicars, and he can steal blood as a strike. He doesn't have Dominate at Superior.
But he is the only 8-cap Justicar. Alright, I'm gonna just throw the ball at Erin. What do you think?
No, it's not for me. Probably somewhere around a C to F.
C to F? Ooh.
Yeah. The fact that he's 8-cap, I don't mind, but the down, it's just too random. Other Justicars on the table.
He is an F from me, dog.
Yeah.
I think I've got an argument for him being in C.
No,
No?
Obviously, we voted F.
F. I was being generous with the C, but no.
All right, F it is. John, who's next?
Angus the Unruled. Gangrel, +1 strength. He only has superior animalism and protean. 10 cap.
He's got multi-act potential with Serenity Fortitude. How much of the new protein stuff is broken because it's Anarch? Supposed to be
the problem with him is he doesn't have a payload. I guess his payload right now is the Iron Fist.
Yeah, but that applies to all of them.
Exactly.
I think
Yes.
C or F.
No, F. I'm happy with an F.
I feel like at this rate, we're going to end up with a lot of F tier.
No,
I
it's
don't want to give him a C. The combination of combat type things that might come up there.
what's he doing outside of combat? He's like bleeding for one and calling Iron Fist, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. He's one up from F for me. It's probably a C.
I was originally tossing up between C and F, but I think, Aaron, you've convinced me. Since he can only do combat and delete squad else, he's F tier for me. Thanks, Aaron.
Welcome.
All right, Aaron, who's next?
Is next.
Mainly because I don't really want to pronounce her name because I've heard it pronounced like 3 or 4 different ways.
Oh, so I would say that Annika.
Annika.
Yes, I've known an Annika, and that's how she spelt it. But yeah, you tell me otherwise if you heard different.
It's Anik.
I've heard Aniki, Anike, Anik. All right.
Where do you put her?
Oh, gee. Well, see. She may attempt to
See.
block a vampire controlled by... Oh yeah, she can ignore predator and prey restrictions. Sounds good, right? +1 bleed. Warrior.
Is this your first time seeing Anik?
I should bring her out more.
Wow. Where does she go?
I think she's between A and S tier.
I put her in F.
Yeah, didn't need her.
She's certainly good enough to build around.
She is.
She is.
My gripe with her is she's a little bit squishy sometimes.
I think you've just described most Toreador.
All right, I'm gonna put an A. You guys can yell at me if you want it. If you want any K to be Ness.
I'll do that after the call.
Next up, it was hot stuff for a period of time. Cock Robin, Nosferatu Justicar, +1 strength, and he gets a free unlock every time he takes an action that requires animalism. Another superstar vampire.
He's got some good friends. He doesn't need to.
I mean, you're right. He does hang out with some pretty good friends. There is, however, the argument that Nosferatu suck.
Yeah. I think Nosferatu maybe have a bit more game now with Iron Fist than they used to.
It's sort of one or the other, right? Like the text of requiring to play animalism cards to unlock versus the use of the Justicar title. You stretch it, like there's a couple of angles you can take it, but there's also the ability to stretch yourself a bit thin in the deck.
Sure.
I like the artwork. I would play it for the artwork.
Oh yeah, he does have one of the better artwork around for Justicars.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where do
So where do you put him, Nat?
I reckon he's a solid A.
I put him in A.
Yeah.
We're in agreement. Oh my god.
Wow. All right.
All right.
Up, we got Democritus. 10 cap, doesn't have superior fortitude, but the other 2 inclans are. And anyone contesting cards with you burns extra blood, and also he has +1 bleed.
Extra pool.
Extra pool.
So here's the interesting thing, right? Most of the cards these days that end up getting contested are Anarch cards. So you're not contesting with whatever deck you dump Democritus in. So I kind of feel like he has the old Alonso card text, which is Justica blank +1 bleed.
Yeah. Yes, this special is sort of reduced in effectiveness over time.
I put him in a B.
Yeah, me too.
Sounds about right.
What was it again? Barely playable?
Barely playable. Yep.
Really.
I won't insult you for playing him. Yeah.
Next, I believe, is Diana Iandanza. I would put this at an S, just straight up.
I don't disagree.
I'm not gonna argue that.
She's one of the new ones too.
Are you watching this video at home? You should probably know what Diana's text is.
We've talked about her before.
Yeah, we have talked about her. Go see old videos.
Twice.
Insert shameless plug here.
All right, next up we have one of vampires that was really good for a bit, and I think she's dropped off recently just because Anox have overshadowed Camilla in terms of tech. Dimitra Ilyanova. If you asked me this 5 years ago, I would have put her in S tier immediately. But these days, I'm not so sure.
I think she's still hanging on.
Yeah, in S tier.
I think she's got more competition now, but I don't think she's any less effective than she used to be.
I agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
All right, fine. S tier.
Here we go. Another Bruja Justicar. Don Cruz, the Idealist. 10 cap, all superior in clan with a blip of dominate. I guess that's relevant. Once each combat, he can burn a blood from maneuver.
I put him in a C.
C, F. I like F.
I'm going to say C. I'm going to say C. I mean, probably better options.
What makes you call him a C?
I think they're just, when you're thinking about the grouping there and what else is available, there are just some better options if you're going to play Bruja.
My argument is don't play that group then.
No, it is play the group. It's just not, he may or may not make it into the deck. He's ideal, but maybe doesn't make it in at the final cut. So I think he's not quite as terrible as some of the other F tier. Still maybe carefully playable rather than barely playable. So I'm going to C.
I think between Homunculus and Enkilcock, he can squeeze into a C. I'm going to cut over to John just because he's making faces.
No. Oh, he's an F.
Too bad. Democracy, you're outvoted. Okay, I might have to censor this one. It's Gabrielle Di Rigetti, Premier Justica who can steal blood and life from other minions.
She's my recent crush, so I might be ranking her higher than she should be, but I put her as an A. That steal blood text is super relevant.
Erin, what do you think?
She's just so far out of my playing the zone of things I would normally play that I've never really considered her before.
I was going to argue for her to be B tier just based on past experience. So I've tried building decks around her before, and I always find that you look at her and you're like, oh, there's a whole bunch of things you could do, and you think you can do all of it, and then it never kind of works, which is why I was like, I think she's a B.
Yeah, the thing about her is you just kind of have to ignore her disciplines and just accept that she's going to use her card text every turn without exception.
If we ever come back and revisit this Justica tier list, I might end up putting her in B, but I'm going to vote with John here.
Yay.
Sorry, Erin, the tribe has spoken.
Okay.
Yep. Is it my turn?
Yes.
Ian Carfax, another Tremere Justica. He's the 9 cap, and he's got +1 intercept, and he can unlock after blocking if the opposing minion isn't ready.
Doesn't have to be blocks, right? You can do it as a rush as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You can do it as a rush. Fair enough.
I know the +1 intercept makes you think blocky, but you know.
I mean, tied with the Auspex and the +1 intercept, it does make me think blocky, but yeah.
So where would you put him?
Me, I put him in a B.
Yeah, he's got potential, I reckon. He's somewhere between a B and an A.
The protein fortitude is interesting.
For me, it's the fortitude which pushes him up to a B. Otherwise, he might be a C.
Yeah, just being able to block and not be his rod is a thing.
Yeah.
I can see him being annoying, like a B.
I can see him being annoying.
Yeah, like you could just see him being a pain.
Yeah. Magic's upper bowl, a sniper rifle, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron, who's next?
What do we got? Jaroslav Pasek. Inflicts +2 damage with melee weapons. Can inflict a damage on each you replace about vampires or D action.
I don't know. I feel like you're paying a lot of full for a 10 cap that essentially has +1 intercept.
And can break sticks very quickly.
I mean, when was the last time you saw melee weapon a viable strategy?
A strategy or, viable?
So where would you put him?
B.
I put him in a C.
I'll put him in a C.
Nope, I voted again.
We should have a running tab on how many types each output.
We'll do a count back later.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is Juliet Parr, new Malkavian Justicar from 30th anniversary. Every time a referendum she passes, you get +2 hand size until your next unlock phase. And more importantly, she has an optional maneuver each combat.
Where do you put her?
I think her ability is an S tier ability, but I will put her in A because it's kind of hard to build a body deck around her disciplines.
Yep. I also put her in as an A.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I think she's one of those where you're like, S tier ability, and then you try to abuse her ability as much as you can, and then you realize you're not actually doing anything.
Fair enough. I'll go on to a pseudo Justicar, Carl Schrecht. He's 2 votes titled, and he can play cards requiring Justicar as if he were a Justicar. He's also got +1 intercept, just like Jaroslav Pasek, and is in the same... not Jaroslav Pasek, Ian Carfax. And the two of them can play together, so that's nice. I put him in the same tier as Ian Carfax. He's a B.
I would put him above Ian Carfax. Like, if Ian Carfax was a B, Carl's disciplines would push him up to an A. It's like we need a tiebreaker or something. Aaron.
I was going to say.
Carl is also 1 capacity older and 1 vote less.
Votes.
Yeah, probably slides into an A for me. Yeah, just one-wise.
Outvoted.
Looks like we got Kasim Baya next. This is one of those really want to like it, but never quite works kind of deals. Yeah, I can discard a political action card to get +2 strength in a combat and +1 blade. I've tried this kind of thing, but it never seems to have the card that you need to discard or you want to keep the card. Yeah, there's I want it to be good, it's just not quite there. And struggles obviously with the lack of flick as well.
It's the inferior Auspex which does it for me. If he had a superior Auspex, I might even put him in A, but without it, he's right down to a C for me.
I'd probably go maybe a B. I think, he's a B in my mind.
Ooh.
I still have hope.
Yeah, I can see the argument for him being a C. I was gonna make a push to put him in F. No, my issue with him is, sure, you have a Justica, but you just paid 9 for it, and really, he's just gonna do the same thing as your 6 cap, right? He's gonna bleed, and then you're gonna discard some cards to boost his bleed, and then if he gets blocked, he's gonna drain life. None of this require him to be a 9 cap Justica.
Or necessarily to have that extra strength.
Anyway, just so we're not here arguing B, C, or F, I am going to side with John, and just so we can get this vote passed.
See, it is.
Next up, we have another imposter, Justica. It's the advanced commentary. Red list, she has +1 stealth, and if you merge her, she can play cards as if she was a Justica.
Or a Ventry.
Or a Camarilla.
I actually don't know where to put her. The problem is because she only gets her ability when merged. So you kind of have to specifically build your deck around merging her and then trying to figure out what you're going to do with the ability to be Camarilla, Ventru, and or Justica.
Well, the reason you would merge her, right, is to play Iron Fist and or second edition.
She also does have the +1 stealth built in.
Yeah, it's the stealth. I'd almost... It's probably not fair for me to put her in B and just say, yeah, she's got +1 stealth. You can just ignore the Justicar bit.
In a discussion about Justica.
She's an amazing Justica if you just ignore the fact that there's a bunch of hoops to jump through to make her Justica. As long as she's not Justica, she's great.
Have we got anybody in a D level yet? Maybe she can go there.
I was having this conversation with John before for the call, and I was like, S, A, B, C, F. We're missing some letters here. And he was like, nah, crap is crap.
I guess she's an F.
Yeah, I think as a Justica, she's either C or F, but as a vampire herself.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. Sorry, commentary. You're an awesome vampire, but you're a crap Justica.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll go ahead and move into Lucian. Camarilla Justicar. He can steal equipment as a strike. And he's group 1, so he's got Dominate instead of Dementation.
F for me.
F for you.
Okay, a few things here. One, the power of Dominate is that you don't need a high capacity vampire to pull it off. Dominate is disgusting at all levels. So paying 10 just for Dominate is a bit mid. And then his ability might as well not be there. I mean, once in a while, maybe you could grab a out of the cheaters or you get your ass handed to you in combat, but it's an F for me.
Okay, here's my question for you. If you see someone playing Lucian, would you insult them?
The common saying is, if you've got nothing nice to say to someone, you just don't say anything. And I think what it is if someone spends 3 whole turns influencing Lucian as their first vampire, I would just keep quiet.
Yeah, okay, I can agree with a C.
A C?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'll go for C because at the end of the day, he's still got Dominate, Obfuscate.
Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. This Dominate, Obfuscate aspects, it's good spread. Yeah, C.
And we kick poor commentary into F.
And all of a sudden, it's not a democracy.
All right, Aaron, who's up next?
Lucinda, Alistair?
Which one?
Alphabetically, I suppose this is going to group 3.
Yes, alphabetically. The number 3 is...
Alphabetically good. Or earlier? I don't know. I mean, the fact that she's got the Alistair thing built in is good. If you're going to be rushing people, that's kind of...
Yeah, if you're going to be rushing people, maybe play Lucinda. If you're not, then don't.
Then don't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to call her probably a B from me.
I would put her in A, I think.
A.
Yeah, built-in rush is a huge thing because it means you don't have to dilute your deck. In theory, if you include Alistair in a Lucine Alistair deck, making her doubly Alistair, she can rush, quick drive, and rush again.
Okay.
That whole thing is why I put the second Lucinda into A.
Yeah.
But the first Lucinda, I bumped down to B just because of the non-Camarilla bit. you don't want to suddenly end up with a Camarilla prey and then your whole game plan falls apart.
Ah, that's a good point. I did not see that. Reading the card, something.
Yeah.
All right, VtES. Which leads us straight into Group 7, Lucine Alsor. She can actually now give all your Camarilla vampires the ability to enter combat. It is limited to just one vampire, so you can pile on to that one vampire, but all your Camarilla vampires can enter combat.
And she just has +1 bleed.
Much nicer.
Is there an argument for her to be S?
If you're trying to build her with a bunch of friends that all dogpile, the selection of Cammy vamps to team her up with aren't the greatest if you're like keep votes around, and since you're Venture, you probably do. It's harder to build than you would expect.
Okay, fair enough. So, who's next?
I'm gonna talk about Madame Gwill, +1 bleed.
Wow.
Justicars.
That's an argument for, I don't know.
She's got a blip of fortitude, I guess, but so does Diana. Well, Diana's even got superior fortitude, so what are we even talking about? I think the biggest drawback between her and Diana is she doesn't have many other friends with fortitude. So I put her down as a C.
Yeah. Not much else to go on there.
So what you're saying, John, is you will insult the person who brings out Madame Gwill.
Yes.
All right. Take notes as to what decks to bring the next time we meet.
By all means, please bring Madame Gwill.
I'm gonna bring a Madame Gwill. Who can she play with? Kamantiri deck.
For the record, I put Kamantiri into B. So.
Doesn't matter what the record shows.
Oh dear.
All right, Aaron, who's next?
Oh my god. Maris? Is that right?
Maristrek.
Just going on the fact that I've heard this name before, I'm going to say pretty good.
The interesting thing about her is her burn of blood to get intercept text doesn't follow the during X do Y format, so you are not limited to how many times you can actually use it.
She's not limited to giving minions you control. So you can even do like cross table intercepts.
Crazy.
For me, she's automatically an S.
F, really?
So the only argument I might have to bump her down to an A is you can't make her the star of your deck. She is a 9-cap support vampire, but she's a great 9-cap support vampire.
I think that's a pretty good argument for bumping her down to an A. Because that's where I put her. I think she's an A. She doesn't have much of a payload. She's got inferior dementation, inferior dom. So for a 9-cap, that's pretty sad. She burns through blood like a thing. And doesn't have many great ways to top herself off, so...
Alright, Aaron, you're the tiebreaker.
Well, unless she doesn't think she's either an A or an S.
Yeah, I'm not seeing her as S. Sorry. So at most an A, I reckon. For the disciplines and that bit of the intercept thing, like you said, that doesn't follow the during convention. So A.
Next up, we have Marianne Blair. Went through Justicar. She has a very relevant special ability, and annoyingly, she shuts down most inner circles.
Most?
I mean, yeah, fair enough.
Some more than others.
That is true. I'll put a solid S.
Yep.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Moving on. There you go.
Molly McDonald. Nosferatu Justicar. She's a new one. She gets +1 vote and +1 bleed if your prey controls non-Camarilla vampires. And also +1 strength. And Protean for some reason.
So, okay. She suffers from a lack of friends. Not many people in Group 6 and 7 have got Animalism, Protean, and Potence, and Obfuscate. So I think you're pretty much trying to build a Star Reach deck. She does make up for that lack of friends with, in this current meta, a almost guaranteed +1 bleed and +1 vote.
Or so she's almost like a mini inner circle.
In a vacuum, I will put her either A or S.
Wow, S, really?
I like the discipline spread. I kind of like the fact that most of the time she will be able to get +1 +1 vote and +1 bleed. But that's in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
I quite like her. I'd be happy to test outside that vacuum. So I'm gonna put her in A for the minute with maybe see who these other non-friends are. Maybe she gets some friends later. I don't know, and becomes a bit more S. But yeah, probably an A at the minute.
I think she's a B+.
Oh,
What does she do? She either bleeds with Deep Song or calls a vote, right? And I guess she's not, so she gets Warsaw.
Come on, bump it up to A for the hat.
what the hat?
In a vacuum, B. I'm almost gonna say outside of the vacuum, she might be a C.
Oh, because of the whole no friends and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
We are at an impasse.
To be
You were
determined at a later
saying
date.
A or S. Is that what the two of you were saying?
I'm thinking A.
I'm convinced by your argument of outside the vacuum, she drops by 1. So I'm happy to put her in B.
B? I
Yep.
can go with the B.
Sorry, Aaron.
Okay. Well, we did start somewhere at a C and an A, so a B sounds reasonable.
Fair enough. I mean, I do like the hat, but not that much.
Monty Calm next.
Monte Calm.
And call a referendum to burn any location as a +1 stealth political action. Handcap, dominate.
Ah, Superior Dominate. That's relevant.
So 5 years ago, I would have easily put him down as an F.
Yep.
But now his card text is relevant because everyone's playing hunting grounds and museums of some form.
So how many tiers does that bump him up to, Mike?
In a vacuum, B, but, you know, Toreador kind of suck.
If you repeat that long enough, it might be true one day.
I'm going for B or C.
I'm actually okay with B or C as well. Like, the reason I might consider him as a B, so he's like C, maybe plus a little bit, right? For me, it's because the dominate is relevant these days.
So it's always been relevant, but okay.
These days.
Hear me out. The dominate is relevant because you actually have the delivery capabilities these days for a Toreador to land that payload. Between the celerity stealth, the presence negative intercept, and the Toreador stealth, dominate is more relevant than what it was.
I think it's a C. I think it's got to be a C because there's a whole bunch of stuff you got to add to get that, what you're talking about, stealth, etc. So, yeah, C.
Okay, see this. Ooh, I feel like this is an automatic F. But anyway, let's go through the steps. Sheldon, Lord of the Cog. I don't know what to tell you. Nosferatu Jessica, full stop, blank cap. He's got specs and fortitude.
I was going to say, is fortitude the redeeming feature there, or
Really?
Have you seen his portrait? There are no redeeming values.
Yeah, I have him under F.
I don't think there's anything you can say to change my mind on this one.
No, I think we're all in agreement there.
Very good.
It's in the toilet.
All right. A vamp that needs to merge to become a Justicar. Tigurius Vizier. Merged becomes Justicar. Also, when not merged, other Banu Hakim can burn blood to get votes. Important bits about him: he's got superior aspects, superior fortitude, superior presence.
I feel like unlike Commentary, his Justicarness is actually somewhat relevant.
Go on.
I mean, presence, his ability is meant to go in a vote deck, right? And depending on how you kind of view his ability, you might even be going for a breed deck. If I remember correctly, there are 2 Group 3 Banu Hakim Princes. So you could put him in a deck with Third Traditions, but if you do go that route, you're very incentivized to want the Justicar.
Yeah.
So my problem here is that an argument for him to be a crappy Justicar or a good Justicar?
I like his unmerged form.
Oh, too much effort to merge?
Yeah, I don't think the payoff is there.
Even for the +3 votes?
Well, we have one prince that also has superior aspect, right?
She's in the wrong group though.
That's what I'm saying. If I had to have to choose between having Tigurius jump through hoops and just playing Olufun Milayo, I would play Olufun Milayo.
That's true. So C or F?
See?
I don't know, there might be an argument here for the little weenies, but I think, yeah, probably an F.
F.
In terms of a Justicar. If we're giving false Justicars down marks for having to go through all the rigmarole to get to the Justicar title, then as a Justicar, not my first choice, definitely.
Okay. I'm down with giving him the Commentary treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, takes.
Sorry, what?
Tiggy. Takes.
Tiggs.
Tiggy.
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 Aaron, who's next?
Ulu. Ulag.
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 Big, the Watcher, forgive my pronunciation. The additional discard phase action, yeah, always good. Text, tick. Discipline, spread, I'd give that a solid yes. I'm going to go with a B here, actually, I reckon. But you might say, I have a feeling you're going to say A, John. So.
I'm happy with B.
I'm going down to a C.
Oh, the other way.
What's he doing, really?
You're still listening.
You mean he's watching?
He was right there.
I don't see it. He's not on the same level as the other 2. Ian Carfax or Carl Frecht.
Wait, Carl's A.
Carl A, Ian's B. I think he's below Ian, so
C
makes sense to me.
But if Molly's a B,
Molly's better than
in a vacuum?
in and out.
Okay, yeah.
You get a discard every turn, right? So it's not like some random ability that only happens every time someone has a location, or it's solid. I like his text.
I'm gonna side with Aaron and put him in B.
Oh, okay.
I think he's better than Don Cruz.
But a C is still better than Don Cruz.
We put Don Cruz in C.
Did we put Don Cruz in C?
We did put Don Cruz in C.
So,
You need to listen. You need to go back and listen to yourself.
I should have taken some notes or something.
Alright, we're down to our last 3.
Yep.
Unmada's up next. Rockaven Justica, also +1 discard phase action, and +1 hand size.
That discard phase action, man.
Double tick.
Yeah. I put him in A.
I put him in A.
Yeah, A.
I love how you poo-pooed Ulabek's +1 discard. You're like, oh, but +1 discard Unmada is awesome. I'm gonna say if nothing else, Umada can play Force March. Force March puts him over the line.
Yep.
Yeah.
Force March is good. Obfuscate is good.
+1 hand size is good.
So I guess we all agree that he's an A.
Oh, I've already dropped it in A.
All right. So the last pseudo Justicars / Prince / Primogen is Victor Pelletier. He's a 5-cap and not really a Justicar. But when he comes out, you can play either 1, 2, or 3 pool to make him either a Primogen, Prince, or Justicar. The only drawback is if he contests, he immediately yields his title.
Back in the day, I would put him as a solid A. Yes, it still costs you 8 pool to make him a Ventral Justicar, but
he comes out on turn 2.
Or even turn 1 if you've got like Dreams of the Swings or Information Highway.
Yep.
Except these days, as a Justicar, he has too much potential competition.
Yeah, so really you're afraid of Lucinda and Marianne Blair popping up on your tables, right?
I think the bigger worry is you would probably put Marianne Blair in the same deck as Victor.
Fair point. I initially put him in an S, but I can come down to an A.
Erin, what do you think?
I think I'm going to have to defer on this one to the group consensus. I don't quite see it, so I'm not quite sure where I would place it. But if John's played it before, then that sounds good to me.
I've played so much shit before. Don't use that as a measuring stick, please.
1 is more than 0.
Yeah, happy to put him in A.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
All right, Erin.
Okay. Lucky last.
Lucky last.
Xavier. Gangrel Justicar. Can unlock after a referendum called by him passes. Given the disciplines that I'm seeing there, 10 cap, probably going to be an A at the minute, I would think.
I'll put him in A just for the Bombway.
Really?
I mean, where else are you going to get a superior Bombway on a Justicar?
Superior Bombway on a Justicar.
Taking the skin minion, which incidentally doesn't have a superior ability.
I've made some old cogs start moving again. Nothing to do with Xavier though. I'm been a C.
I can see him being a B. C is a bit rough for him, especially with plus Iron Fist.
How's he passing votes?
That's a good question.
Okay, yeah. You convinced me. I can put him in C.
And it's a long way from A.
He doesn't have any flick.
It doesn't have any reliable bleed reduction either.
Mm.
And it's like, even if I disagree, I'm going to get outvoted.
Well, they're all very valid points. You do make very valid points, yeah. I see it. I see it.
See it is. And that's the end of the Justicar tier list. Thank you once again for joining us on this video. And thank you again to John and Erin.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
Yeah, let us know if you agree with the list or if you think there's anything else that you might change things around. Or you can try to guess what John's list actually looks like after this video. And until next time, see ya.
Bye.
Bye.